This is Nattering with E with your host, Eric Friedlander.
On Saturdays, we listen to Nattering with E because if you're about to hurl from taking a tilt-a-whirl, your ears better be free.
On this week's episode of Nattering with E, I'm joined by good buddy and frequent guest on the show, if you've been listening to us for a while, Mr. Brundan Haney, a.k.a. Irish Misfit, a.k.a. the guy who knows the most about wrestling in the Wizards and Revelry wrestling world. Step into the Nattering with E podcast and come and join us for a wild ride about GCW, Game Changer Wrestling. As well, if you'd like to give us a show name, because Brundan's coming on more frequently, totally do that too. Some names we pop up in the podcast you'll hear, but if you have anything better for Brundan and I to have as our podcast name, we are all ears. Also, if you'd like some stickers, totally get a hold of me on the Nattering with E Instagram page. All right, cheers. What up, world? It's your boy E coming at you from the Nattering with E studios. I am joined today for a Nattering with E wrestling and life episode with my good pal, Mr. Brundan. Brundan, what's going on, man?
Nothing much, man. I am ready to rumble. It's been way too long, and I'm ready to talk some wrestling with you and whatever else we might sidebar onto.
Sounds fantastic, man. Here at Nattering with E, all we like to do is talk, cry about our sports teams and talk some more, you know? So.
Oh, I got plenty to cry about on the sports teams.
Oh, man. What are the Mets even doing?
They're selling. Yeah, they aren't going to win. They knew it. Verlander and Scherzer, they're both they could get at least something for them, even though they're still paying them. So, sell them while it's hot, and hopefully in a couple of years we'll win another 101 games. Not this year though.
Yeah.
I will be at a game. I did buy tickets next month. The man, myth, legend, one of my favorite Mets, Bartolo Colon, is officially retiring after not playing for years, and they're having a ceremony for him in September. So I will, as soon as I heard that, hopped on StubHub, grabbed some tickets, and I will be there.
That's fantastic, man. Were you ever into Bobby Bonilla, the guy who gets paid every July 1?
I saw him play in like 1990 or 91. I was at a Mets game and saw him play. I remember him the late 80s, 90s, early 90s. I was all about baseball. I read, showing how old I am, I read the paper every day. I followed like who I could, see who had the best stats and everything. And Bonilla was good back then. So, he definitely stood out. Will be happy when Mookie Betts retires, because he will officially take over as the worst contract ever in baseball for not playing, because the Dodgers are going to pay him like $8 million a year not to play. So 10 more years.
I need that job. Pay me not to do anything. Like, I just want you to sit there on the couch.
Yep.
Don't even record a podcast. We'll just pay you $8 million. I would be like, all right.
The Mets are paying like $75 million for people not to play for their team. They're still paying Scherzer. They're paying Cano. They're paying Verlander now, Bonilla, Brett Saberhagen gets $125,000 a year from them. Some guy I can't even remember his name and never heard of. So yeah. I feel like it's like all the teams have this. Like, if you look at every team, like the Reds are still paying Ken Griffey Jr. every year, and I'm pretty sure when they started the year, he was number 1 or 2 highest paid player on their team not to play. But yeah, everybody pretty much has this, but the Mets is just so pronounced that they're the ones you think of.
Since I'm a fan of not only bad sports teams, but just like teams that do terrible things, just like the Mets, for instance. So I'm thinking that after Manfred ruins my life and sends the Oakland A's to Vegas, I may jump over to the Mets and I'll start following them. I'll be a fan
Uh,
with you.
can't blame them. It feels like there's some games where there's more guys on the field than in the stadium, but
Yeah, yeah,
it is what it is. It's kind
yeah,
of like when the Expos left, nobody was going to see them. So, yeah, it stinks that they left, but if you really wanted to miss them, go out to a game.
yeah. That's for sure. That's for
Yeah.
sure.
I
We've
certainly
been
wish they stayed because I hate the Nationals.
Yeah, Nationals are. I mean, they won the World Series a couple years ago, which
Ugh,
was
yeah, that
the only
hurt.
the only reason I liked that. It was because I was anti-Houston, but I mean everybody's anti-Houston. But
That's true.
Houston is just like a ridiculous team. I was on the previous episode of the pod was episode 20 where I played MLB The Show 2022. I don't know if I
Nice.
sent you that episode. I may have.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
you did. I just have not had a chance to watch it just yet.
No worries, no worries.
Yeah.
But they were doing 2021 was the way that the game works is, as you probably know, is it's the season before, and
Hmm.
then like partially like the current season.
Oh yeah.
So they had the Houston Astros from 2021, and like every guy on that team has like 35 home runs and like like 95 power, and
Yep.
you're just like these dudes cheated with the signal calling, and they never had to because their team is just so damn good.
Yeah, they are.
Like Jordan Alvarez, holy
I love that
smokes.
man.
Uh,
Fantasy reasons.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Altuve is good.
He is.
Bregman.
Hmm.
Um, I think the guy's name's Kyle Tucker, who's also good.
I think so.
Yeah, he's pretty solid. But
Yeah,
as a Jays fan too, that was the year that Vladdy hit 48, 2021.
that's
And that,
right. Yes.
and now we're just like, when's he gonna hit 20? Because it's like almost the end of August. We're like, hey man,
Yeah.
Bichette's out. Bichette's out. You gotta kind of do something now. And they're playing the Boston Red Sox this weekend as we chat, which is another team I don't like. But
No, no, not at all.
they my buddy today was telling me that, like, if the Red Sox sweep them, that they'll jump ahead of them in the wild card standings. And
Oof.
I was just like, no, please no. We just lost 3 to Baltimore, who's like on a mission this year to.
Oh, they're ridiculous. Yeah, I was watching SportsCenter this morning and I saw Tampa Bay in first for the wild card. I'm like, wait, these guys like didn't lose in the beginning of the year. It's
Yeah,
ridiculous to see. That shows you how good Baltimore has been.
yeah, they literally went 21-3 to start the season, the Rays, and they're
Yeah,
somehow in second, 6.5 games behind Baltimore.
it's
Like,
insane. And they haven't like it's not even like they truly cooled off and went like, 3-21. They're still
mhm.
good. It's just Baltimore is they're on another level.
I mean, that guy Rushman, the
Oh,
catcher,
I love that
holy
guy.
smokes.
My my cousin's daughter, so I'll say my niece or cousin or whatever you want to call that. She actually knows him.
Oh, unreal.
She they live out in Washington and she goes to school in Oregon. I can't remember whether it was college or high school. She met him because she's a pitcher for fast pitch softball. She's unbelievable too.
That's
She's been on
awesome.
ESPN actually, but yeah, her Rushman's father actually was her coach. So he would come back and say hi and talk to the team and everything. So yeah,
That
she was she that's pretty awesome.
that's phenomenal. And,
Yeah.
and it's crazy to me that the Yanks are dead last. I mean, I'm
Uh,
not a Yankees fan, anyways, but like, it still seems crazy with how much they spend that they're dead last.
yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Injuries didn't help them too. They've had Herman's a piece of garbage and has been besides pitching the perfect game, he hasn't done much. Cortez has been hurt, Judge is hurt, Rizzo is now hurt. So, injuries don't help, but
What?
everybody's as shown on my fantasy teams this year, everybody's injured.
Are you in that league with Matt from Shining Wizard?
Yeah, yeah, I'm dead last.
Oh, brutal, brutal. And he's running like 3 teams in that league, if I'm not mistaken.
No, no, he's only got one.
Oh, one? Okay.
Yeah, he's just got one. He can't run three teams and be the owner. But
That would be
yeah, he's only.
insane.
I still try. I'm still trying in that one, but it's hard when your best hitters are Jordan Alvarez, who's injured, and Mike Trout, who hasn't been Mike Trout and injured, and Max Fried is your pitcher, and he's pitched twice this year basically. So
But
my whole like top of the draft has been hurt. I'm still trying to make moves. I'm not going to be one of those people that gives up just because my team sucks.
yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
my goal is to finish in next to last place.
Yeah, that's basically me with every fantasy team that I have. Was just try not to be last, basically.
I used to be I used to be good at this thing. I was in a league with a bunch of my buddies and for a while, and I won 2 out of 4 years, finished in second to third, or the another year, finished in last another year, but went from last to first, and then retired. I used to win baseball. Now I lost touch.
Yeah, I played baseball for a couple seasons and
Hmm.
I was just trash. I was just trash.
Oh,
No,
it was
no,
terrible.
no,
Yeah, me
I
too.
won one season. I won one season with some buddies from university, but apparently we had I still contest this to this day because I won the championship, but apparently there was an a gentleman's rule, quote unquote. We're on audio only, but I'm making the air quote sign.
He is. I can
Uh,
confirm.
a gentleman's agreement that if you made it to the final, you weren't allowed to use the waiver wire at all.
Hmm.
And so I thought that was a joke, not realizing that like no, it's legitimate. Like everybody else agreed to this. I didn't realize everybody else agreed to it. So I was that guy who would like still pick up people and like
Yeah,
take
I
up my
mean,
pitchers and stuff
to
because
me,
you're there to
yeah,
win.
yeah. In the finals, there should be a gentleman's rule that only the people in the finals should be able to pick up people. Because I've been in like football leagues where I'm in the finals, I'm trying to get a waiver, and all of a sudden somebody else is picking them up. I'm like, you're in like seventh place, dude. You're not doing anything. But
Yeah,
fantasy. Ah,
fantasy something that ruins our lives, man.
ruins my lives and keeps me as a fan.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I was thinking about that too, because I assume you don't watch British soccer, do you?
No, no, I've never been able to get into soccer, football, whatever you want to call it. I've
Whatever you want to call
never
it.
been able. The only soccer I watch is on the Sports Center top 10.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. That's
Yeah.
close enough. That's close enough. I'll take it. I'll take it. So I'm a big quote unquote footy fan. And so every year I pay for like Fubo or DAZN for the whole year. But
Hmm.
like I realized I was only watching like my specific team, which like if you're gonna pay for the whole year, you gotta watch like the whole league
Yeah,
basically.
yeah. It's like buying the MLB package and watching nothing but Yankee games.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
Or Oakland A's or things like that. But yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I'm trying to so this year my plan is to watch every as much soccer as possible. They have like five other leagues on there, so I'm going to try and watch as much as possible. They also
Nice.
randomly have like TNA lockdowns and like random impact on Fubo
All right.
from like 2006.
Ooh, that's good time. Good timing.
So I'm like,
Samoa
yo,
Joe days and Daniels and all these other guys. Good
yeah,
stuff.
yeah. I was saying to you off air that I want to eventually do an episode on like Jerry Lynn and guys like that. So
Yeah.
seeing him on AEW and then seeing my guy Rob Van Dam,
Yeah, I was thinking about you.
I was
When
like,
I
oh
saw
my
him
god.
come out, I was like, oh, Eric's gonna mark.
Did you
That's
see? Did you see on Twitter or X? I refuse to call it X. It's still Twitter to me. Damn it. Uh,
I'm doing the nobody could see. I'm doing the X.
yeah, the X.
Yeah.
I tweeted out. Jordan and I did an episode of this where we were talking about RVD coming to Toronto for Greektown Wrestling
Yeah.
last year.
Yeah.
So I tweeted out, I'm just like, here's our episode from last year with RVD coming to AEW, and it would be great to have RVD on the podcast. And RVD liked the tweet, man.
Oh, that's freaking awesome.
I was like, oh my god. I
Oh
was
man.
I was like, I hope that dude. I'm putting it out to the universe. RVD, if you listen to this podcast, please, man, come on to the podcast. I'll try not to fangirl about you too much, but I will definitely love to have you on the podcast. So I'm putting it
He's
out there.
he's one of a kind.
Exactly. Exactly. Oh man, when he came out to walk,
Oh, that was great. Yeah.
I was like,
That's how I mean that's a majority of people. That's how they first knew him was him coming out to walk and his 10 minutes entrance and everything. And yeah, that was just always awesome. I remember them saying like towards the end, people would get actual like, oh, okay, you got 10 minutes, you got 5 minutes, and then RVD would be in the men be like, go as long as you want.
yeah.
Yeah, your entrance is 10 minutes, so open ended.
It was interesting too because I'm so used to like we both grew up with ECW and
Yes.
I'm so used to that rivalry of Jerry Lynn versus RVD that
Yeah.
when they got in the ring together before Jungle Boy ran back in with the chair, I
Mhm.
definitely thought Jerry Lynn was going to kick him in the kick RVD in the groin, and then be like, no, 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 me and Jack Perry are aligned, man.
That's true. At the end of ECW, Jerry Lynn was the bad guy.
Yeah, yeah. Carino won the title off of him, and then
Yeah.
they pushed
Jerry
right.
Lynn was with Don Callis.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Cyrus the Virus. Yeah,
Hmm.
crazy. Actually, Cyrus the Virus, one of his characters was called the Jackal.
Yep,
Um,
Truth Commission and the Oddities
yeah,
in WCW. That's how I first saw him.
yeah. So the reason I bring him up is because when my dad was, I forget which law firm he was at, but one of the secretaries actually dated Don Callis.
That's a small world.
Yeah, and so he told me once, he was like, yeah, so and so is dating this wrestler named the Jackal. And I was like, wait, no way, the Jackal? And he's like, yeah, 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 do you know him? And I was like, I hate the Jackal. He's like, why? And I'm like, he plays Cyrus the Virus on ECW right now, and he's like trying to
Yeah.
ruin the company. Like, ah. So
They missed the boat with him. He was pretty damn good in WCW. He was forgot what they call it. I forgot what he tried to attribute it to. It was like the guy that did Waco or whatever, kind of like a cult leader.
oh, Jones or whatever the
Yeah,
guy.
yeah, yeah. Jim
Yeah,
Jones or something like that. But
yeah,
yeah, it
yeah.
was awesome.
Yeah. John Callis is such a talent, man. Like just
He is.
I loved him with I used to think he and Josh Matthews as the Impact / TNA announcers were excellent. Yeah.
Yes.
So they were
I used to listen actually when he first got back into wrestling. Even before that, he was doing a podcast with Jerry Lynn. Was no, not Jerry Lynn. Lance Storm.
oh nice.
It was called Killing the Town. It was just the two of them talking about, driving around Canada and, being on those, death tours and being in ECW and telling stories. It was awesome. That was like one of my favorite ones.
I wonder if it's on Spotify. I gotta check that out. Killing the
It
Town.
used to be, I don't know if it is. It used to be on Apple Pod, and I don't know if you could find any of it. It's been gone for quite a while. Yeah.
Everything's on the internet, man.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
all I've
that's
learned.
true. It was very entertaining. And then once he bought into Impact, that was kind of the end of it. Got too busy.
Yeah, when he and Scott Demore were running Impact, it was some of its best stuff. I think Impact is quietly like one of the best
Yeah,
promotions.
I wish I watched more Impact, man. But
Yeah.
I don't have the time.
For me it's I don't get the channel here.
Ah, that stinks.
I think it's on DAZN now or something like that, but
Here
like
it's on Access TV.
yeah, I don't get access up here. So we
Aren't they owned by a Canadian company too? I think, or at
I've
least at one point they were.
let me see.
I'm pretty sure they were.
Oh yeah, Anthem owns them. Yeah,
Anthem, that was it.
Anthem's
Yeah, yeah.
Canadian, yeah. Yeah, it's weird. They're headquartered in Toronto, but I can't get the station. How does that make any sense?
It doesn't.
Um, like we're here together, people.
It's the
Give
most TNA thing you could think of.
yeah,
Kind of
absolutely.
fits with their history.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
So let's get into. Do you want to do SummerSlam first, or do you want to do GCW, recap GCW from their time with Freedom?
Let's do GCW first. Knock that out.
Okay.
Yeah,
So a couple weeks ago, GCW took on Freedom from Japan. They went over for 3 shows in Japan. Um, the New Face of War was, I think that was the second night. The
that
first night,
was the first night was New Face of War. Second night was Planet Death. Uh, Forgot what the third night was. The
did,
third night was because the first two were put as GCWs. The third one was Freedom's Run show.
oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense because I'm on Cage Match
Yeah.
right now. If anyone's following along with us,
Yeah,
uh,
so am I.
I'm on Cage Match, and they have GCW, the New Face of War, which Brundan just mentioned, and Planet Death, but then they don't have the third night. So
Yeah.
I'm assuming you got to go through Freedoms for that one.
Yeah, that one would be Freedom's.
So, uh, firstly, I'll ask, what did you think of both cards? And then I guess actually what I want to start with is
Hmm.
I thought it was interesting how the first night was kind of it was okay for the most part up until the end where they had that hot angle right after the
Yeah.
Takeda versus Janela match, and then that seemed to set the other 2 days in motion. Because
Yeah.
yeah, prior to that, everything else seemed sort of like, why is this even happening? Like they gave no history behind it. So
Yeah. So
yeah,
this isn't actually their first go around in Japan. They did this, I believe, before the pandemic. They went over and did a couple of shows in Japan, and they might have done it. I don't know if they did it last year or not, but yeah, they've always kind of partnered with Freedoms in the past. Like you've seen Freedoms guys come over for Tournament of Death. They brought over Jun Kasai a couple of times for the first time, really in a really long time. I think he had a banger with Alex Cologne. So that's pretty much why it was like them and Freedoms. Uh, the history between the two, like the partnership between the two.
yeah, yeah. I thought they'd get a little bit more into playing off as we talked about in our last episode, where at the end of Tournament of Survival, the Freedom guys beat the holy heck out of John Wayne Murdoch
Yeah.
and Rina Yamashita. But it seemed like night one they didn't really do much of that. Like I don't even think Jin Kasai was on night one, if
Uh-uh.
I'm reading this properly. So
No, he wasn't. I don't know if that's because just, he's been doing this at a high level for, how many years. And he had a Planet Death. He knew he was having a big one, so he kind of wanted to save himself. Because Kasai, all you got to do is look at him, and you know that man's been through some things.
yeah,
Yeah, he doesn't have skin anymore. He just has scars.
yeah, he's
So
like the Japanese Sabu, if you want to
yeah,
call him that.
yeah. That's pretty close to, I would say. So yeah, it feels like they only really did like one follow up to that. Well, maybe two. Yeah, maybe two, or like two follow ups to that. But yeah, we can get into that when we run down these cards.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing I'll say about both cards before we go through them is that I was unfamiliar with Kasai's tag partner Takeda.
Oh,
Holy smokes, that guy rules.
that guy is unbelievable. He basically in the in the late teens or whatever to like 2000 or whatnot, like he was the man for deathmatch wrestling. Like everybody wanted him over here, but in Japan, like he was like deathmatch god. Like he was on top of Freedoms. He went over to Big Japan also and was on top over there. He was a tag champ, and he was just putting on like the greatest death matches you could. And he can go also. He's not like a slouch in the ring, but he death matches is bread and butter, and that's what he excels at. So
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. I feel like instead of running through both cards, we could pick out things that stood out to us
yeah,
in both
yeah,
of
that
these.
works.
So, in keeping with Takeda, uh,
Mhm.
so we'll jump right to the main event of the first night.
Yeah,
Because to me, that was that, and maybe Masha and Rena versus Charlie and Sawyer were probably the two standout matches for me. Like,
yeah, yeah.
um,
I'm with you on that.
with Takeda versus Janela, like he got a lot out of Janela. I felt like that was a better death match, even though it says here on Cage Match that it was just a singles match. I
Hmm.
thought that was a better death match than the actual death match on the card, Mercer versus Masaoka. Uh,
Yeah, that was kind of Mercer versus Matsuoka was a little more tame. Like they did a few things, and Mercer threw him around because that's what Mercer does. I'll always watch a Mercer match when I can because that guy just he could do some things, and he's as strong as they come. So
yeah,
I'm a big fan of him. But yeah, Janela and Takeda, I had high hopes for this because I know when Janela does a death match, he doesn't do them all the time, but when he does, he goes nuts. So yeah, I knew him versus Takeda, they were just gonna kill each other, and they sure did. I was very entertained by it, perversely entertained, I would call it.
yeah, it was so intense, and like you said,
Yes.
Janela really steps up his game during those matches. Like the whole thing with the light tubes, where they had the light tubes on the side, and then they were like beating the. It almost, and I don't know if this is because I was like half awake by that point, because some of this card was not good,
Yeah.
but um, they had the two, like if they were in the middle of the ring, they had two of the side, like one side across from each other, both sides had light tubes, and they were just like throwing them at each other, and like
Yeah.
it looked like they were like enclosed in with the light tubes.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. It was not like that's kind of how they do the 200 light tubes, but obviously there weren't 200 here.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And like Janela stepped up his game, but ultimately Takeda took it. And then afterwards, it was I thought the angle to set everything else up for the rest of the week was kind of interesting because
It was like the
when
opposite of what they did at Tournament of Survival.
mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
because sorry, Janela was initially he starts putting him over, then all of a sudden Masha comes out and starts beating the crap out of Takeda. And
Hmm.
then Takeda fights back, and then all of a sudden Blake Christian turns face, and like he and Gringo Loco are beating up Takeda, and then like Freedom's locker room comes out, and then everybody comes in, and like a giant brawl breaks
Yeah.
out. And it was sometimes like in major wrestling promotions like WWE or AEW, or we were talking Impact earlier, you find like the guy who's the victim, let's just say, in the first part of the angle, he
Hmm.
can't wait to get his hands on the person who initially attacked him, and we end up getting like weeks and weeks of build. In this, it was like as soon as everybody started brawling, Takeda just pulls Masha out, and they just go to town, and like
Yeah.
on the outside. Everybody else is like calmed down by this point after like a major brawl, and they're just still like throwing bombs at each other, like trying to really rip each other apart. Then the next night they faced off in a grueling like 11-minute match.
Yeah. Yeah. They really killed each other. That
That
was one I was looking forward to because Masha is something else, and Takeda's Takeda. So they
yeah,
did. I think they delivered.
yeah, the way that it was funny because it looked like they're going to show each other respect at the end of that match, like after literally hitting each other with like a billion light tubes. I think a couple other violent things as well. I can't remember at the
Probably, yeah. I'm sure they did just all sorts of barbed wire and chairs and stuff.
yeah, exactly. So it looked
Yeah.
like at the end, like they put their heads together and it looked like they were gonna make peace, and Masha was ready to make peace, and Takeda just flips her off and takes off. I was like,
Yep.
amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. One thing I thought that was interesting too is night one, you had John Wayne Murdoch of the Rejects team with Los Macios, and
Mm-hmm.
then uh, in the second half of that, we saw the big turn between of Erie turning on Los
It
Macios.
was Violento Jack.
Yeah, Violento Jack, former partner of Los Macios.
Yeah. So before the pandemic, Los Mazios was over a lot in Japan. Uh, they went over for freedoms a lot, and Jack lives there. So the three of them are Mexican brethren. I'm pretty sure they kind of came up together, so they would team up a lot while when Mazios was over there, and they were pretty popular over there. Fans loved them. It's just a pandemic happened, and that put a kibosh on that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So what I thought was interesting for that is like I know you don't like Jimmy Lloyd, and I think
Nope.
I respect his work. I respect his work rate, but like his gimmick itself, I don't really understand. But I thought it was interesting. Night one, Erie attacks Violento Jack, Takayuki Ukai, and Toshihiko Sakura all
Hmm.
attack Los Mazios, and Jimmy Lloyd's on commentary, and he's like, "Wait a minute, I'm basically." I don't know if you caught this, but he says to Brett Lauderdale, he's like, "Actually, I'm like the new Violento Jack. Like Los Mazios are my boys, so I'm gonna see if I can team with them tomorrow to get revenge on these dudes." And he was like, "I know you don't like Lloyd, but the way that he
Hmm.
delivered like such a passionate thing on commentary about like this is BS, these are my boys, like nobody does that to my guys and sort of thing." Like I really respected him for that because he's like um it's like if you've ever been in a fight and then you tell your buddies and your buddies are like, "Oh, we totally would have been there," and they feel like gunning
Yeah.
for you. It's sort of like that. So
Yeah.
I like that part of the character. Anyways, the reason why I brought up Murdoch is because Murdoch teamed with Los Macizos, which, if you've ever watched GCW, sorry, it's a little bit weird because Rejects and Macizos do not like each other at all.
No, they don't. I
But
think it was probably kind of just a GCW thing because the first night it was Murdoch and that Los Mazios versus Mammoth Sakai or Saskai, who's been around forever over there and been doing death matches for like 20 years. And then Harada and Segura, who were, two of the guys that turned at Cage of Death, or not Cage, whatever it was.
Tournament of Survival,
Tournament of Survival, yeah.
yeah.
So it was kind of like that was like the day that was kind of like the continuation of GCW versus Freedoms there. So I think at least that's the way I looked at it with them
I,
teaming together.
I thought that too. I didn't like that it was Macizos that were Murdoch's partners for that because
Yeah,
I kind of wanted to see like Murdoch and Yamashita and maybe I know Nick Gage wasn't there, but
no, I don't think he can be either.
oh yeah, because of legal reasons. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But I kind of wanted to see like Murdoch, Yamashita, and maybe like Janela versus Hirata, Segura, and Kasai, just to get like
Yeah.
revenge on that. Murdoch ends up getting more than he can. So we jump over to Planet Death, and Lloyd and Los Mazios fight Erie, and then uh, they win the match with some assistance from John Wayne Murdoch, who hits a nice cutter.
Yes.
Hits a nice cutter to set everything up, and then Mazizos win. One of the grossest things I've ever seen in my life was uh, how Cyclope got like these needle things going or hooks things
Oh,
going through his mouth and then through his eyelids.
yeah.
And then the guy like hit a chair against his face. I was like,
I saw a picture before I watched this of Cyclope like with like the things in his eyeballs. So when it was coming, I looked away. Like I love death matches. I love, you know, all just about everything that happens in them, but like needles and all that going through like mouths and faces and noses. Ugh. Count me out.
that stuff trips me out too because
Yeah.
um like a lot of people I know are always like, "Why are you doing a wrestling podcast, man? Like, you know it's staged and fake." And
It's fixed.
I'm just like, I get what you're like. Normally, I'm like, I don't get where you're coming from because if I'm passionate about this, why do you care?
Yeah,
But when you see, uh, like Cyclope take a bunch of needles through his eyes, through his eyelids and his
yeah,
mouth, you're just like, no, no, they have a point about why this is staged.
yeah. Then again, why are you doing a movie podcast? It's not real. That's the
Yeah,
way I always
exact,
attribute that. But
exactly.
yeah, that one I felt like Jimmy Lloyd didn't do anything in that match too.
He
Like it
he
feels like it was just Extremo and Cyclope most of it, but
he came in a couple times to have like a hoss fight with I forget who the short
Jack.
guy was.
Oh, who was it? Sakota, I believe is no, I don't remember. I just remember Zach or Jack mostly.
Whoever the non-short guy is of the other two, he
Hmm.
Lloyd would come in and have a hoss fight with because it
Yeah,
seemed like Miedo Extremo was the one who wanted Violento Jack the most.
yeah, yeah. Which makes sense.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
then after Murdoch got involved, we got uh Jun Kasai coming out to fight John Wayne Murdoch, and to say he beat the holy crap out of him would be an understatement. I know last time we spoke, we were talking about how Rina Yamashita was taking everybody to school in that tournament,
yeah,
and Kasai basically took John Murdoch from a Yamashita beating to like a whole new level.
yeah. I mean, Kasai is, he's the guy for death matches. Like he's done it all. He did he's like the originator, I think, of razors and you know butcher knives. He's done and just if you could think it up, he pretty much can do it.
he,
So
he
and he's been doing it. Like he was in the original like CZW versus Big Japan feud, and that was like 2002.
That's
And
crazy.
he's still, 20 years later, he's still feuding with the Americans and just being Kasai. And it's not just the punishment he takes. He's got an aura about him. He's entertaining. People love him. So yeah, he's the standard bearer, I would say, or the ruler.
Yeah, he reminds me of like a deathmatch version of like Minoru Suzuki.
Yeah, yeah, I could see that.
Uh, Matt, speaking of Minoru Suzuki slash NJPW, I haven't seen it yet, but Jun Kasai and El Desperado
Oh
versus
yeah,
Mox and Homicide. Holy smokes.
yeah. What's his name? Tom really said like that one, and then the next night of Mox and El Desperado, like yeah, he said go out of your way. I haven't watched it, but I definitely want to.
Do you get NJPW World or
I don't have it, but I have a way I could watch it if I
gotcha?
tried.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. Tom sent me something which I gotta like track down. But I was saying to you and Jordan off air that next year I might bail on IWTV for like as long as the G1's on, and then
yeah,
do G1. So I'll send you the info for that
nice.
next year. Another match that I want to talk about before we wrap up GCW here is night one, Masha and Rena versus Charlie Evans and Sawyer Wreck.
Hmm.
To say that match, in my opinion, was the match of those two nights, I think would be probably fair.
Yeah,
Um, some of the stuff that they did though was a little
yeah. They
like
did that.
that gusset thing that you were
Yeah, they
talking
did
about.
that
I don't
thing. I
like
was
that.
like, no, don't do this again. This is the one I hated.
Yeah.
But then they ended up doing it. I don't really know Charlie Evans. I've heard the name, but she definitely stepped up and really took it to people. That's for sure. I know she's from Australia and she's pretty young and hasn't really done a ton yet, but
Apparently she hopped on apparently she was in NXT for 5 seconds
oh wow.
and then they let her go and I don't think she ever was on NXT main. Like I think she was behind this, like one of those background talents, and
Yeah,
they let her go, and then she what did she do?
it
I think
looks.
GCW was just like, hey, you want to join us for this? Like, we need a fourth girl in this match because Sawyer can't take on Masha and Rena herself, or else she's gonna die. And
She's
so,
apparently done a bunch of GCW in the past.
yeah,
She's what was I gonna say? She did 7 matches for them and JCW last year and a couple before that. So, but I think she went back to Australia this year and has been mostly doing that. I think she did a strong taping too,
oh, nice.
ironically.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she was good, you know, like watching that match, she worked her butt off. I mean, she I think was a step behind the other three, but she was
Yeah,
you
yeah,
could tell
I
she was
definitely
doing
enjoyed
good.
her. Yeah. I gotta bring up too, what's his name? The first match of night 2, Shane Mercer versus Erie. Those two had a hot fight.
I loved it, man.
I loved it. I've seen Erie before. He's floated around. He's never like I think he does stuff in All Japan and stuff like that. I'm surprised he's never had a run in New Japan because he's a killer. I saw him live at jeez, which one was it? I don't remember. WrestleMania weekend a couple of years ago, and he had just a killer match. So he's still he's only 35 years old. He's 15 years in. So he's a guy I would love to see like them New Japan to bring in and have like a little bit of a run because he's not a deathmatch guy. He's just
He just
he's
built
a
like a brick house. Like
yeah, he's a brick shithouse, that's for sure.
he's unreal. The thing
Yeah.
the I like him a lot. I'm not too familiar with Mercer, but I did not like that Mercer
Hmm.
was he puts on a bad match against Masoka on the first night, and then he got the win, and then Erie goes from losing to Blake Christian, like getting knocked the hell out by Blake Christian, to losing to Shane Mercer. I didn't like that, but
Yeah, I could see. I like Shane Mercer a lot. I've seen a lot of him in GCW. I've seen him live in Ritual in my town actually a few times. I
Mhm.
saw him and Brian Cage have a hoss fight one night, and they just killed each other, and then did stuff that guys their size shouldn't be able to do. So yeah, I'm a pretty big fan of him. Uh, So he's a kind of guy like I could see him go over to Japan and not quite be like a Hanson or a Brody, but one of those guys that just throws people around and kills people over there. It would be fun.
Yeah, I
And
think I
he
was
he
sorry.
he's legitimately like one of the strongest people I've
Mhm.
seen. Like his bench, his all that stuff. I follow him on Instagram, and he just does amazing things with so much weight.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I think I was saying to you on text that he reminds me of who's the Chris brother who came back to Impact?
Jake.
Yeah, Jake. Yeah, yeah. He looks like a
Yeah,
jacked Jake, basically.
yeah, yeah. I
Okay,
could
yeah,
see that.
yeah. Okay, so that's it for GCW. We'll move on to or do you have anything else for GCW?
No, no. I would say if you're gonna I'll give my things here. If you're gonna cherry pick matches, I would say watch Mercer, Erie. Um, Masha Takeda was good. Um, the tag team, Masha, Rena, Evans, and Sawyer was fun. The Blake Christian, you know what? Blake Christian Erie was a lot better than I thought it would be. So that was entertaining. But yeah, definitely Takeda Joey. That was my favorite match of the night or both nights. So go out of your way to watch that one if you like death matches or people, throwing people off ladders through chairs and light tubes and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
thumbs up, I would say, for those shows.
So we're going from GCW all the way to the top, and by that I mean WWE. As when this episode drops, August 5th, is the same night as the 36th annual SummerSlam.
Isn't it
Now
Summerfest?
it could be.
That came up for me today. I don't know if you remember that. That was Jeremy Pivens back when they did the guest host of Raw every week. They would have a celebrity come in. He came in and went on to call SummerSlam Summerfest twice, right, while trying to build it. It's Summerfest. It's SummerSlam, you idiot. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
So,
John Cena threw him out of the ring, and whoever was supposed to catch him didn't.
oh
Yeah.
no.
But
That's
that came up today. That's always one of my favorite things.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
before we get into the actual card, I wanted to ask when it comes to WWE, because we've known them for so long as like the major ticket. Like you've
Yeah.
made it to the top when you're at WWE.
Yes.
When it comes to the big four, as I like to call them for their pay-per-view, so
Hmm.
Royal Rumble, Mania, SummerSlam, Survivor Series.
Hmm.
Uh, two questions for you. One, where do you rank SummerSlam of those four? And two, uh, is SummerSlam something that you've always looked forward to, or like it depends on the year?
I think it really. I'll go with the first or second one first. It kind of depends on the year. To me, I'll look forward to unless it's the Royal Rumble. I'll look forward to something besides to see what's announced. Like there have been some SummerSlams where I was like all about it and super excited. Like if I think back, I remember SummerSlam with Brock vs. Rock was really good. Uh I believe there was one with Edge versus Undertaker in a Hell in a Cell that was a banger at SummerSlam. And it was like the end of their big long feud, and they just killed each other. That was a big match. But to answer the first one, I think SummerSlam would be either 3 or 4 for me. Royal Rumble's always my favorite event. Uh, I don't watch a lot of WWE. A lot. I barely watch any these days. Kind of, because I didn't have time, and I had kind of fell away from the product for a while. And but I would always watch the Royal Rumble. Just I've always loved the Rumble. That being said, Survivor Series, when it was Survivor Series and you had Survivor matches and it was the random teams, I loved it. But now Survivor Series, like brand supremacy, all that crap, I could care less. I liked it when you had like the random teams of like, let's say, Ultimate Warrior, the Rockers, and Jim Neidhart, or the Rockers, Jimmy Snuka, and Jake the Snake versus the Models team of the Model Power and Glory, and who's the other one? The Warlord.
Yeah.
So I really liked when the like, even though these are like 4 random guys that might not be together all the time or allies all the time, like they just fit together then. And it was always entertaining to me. So yeah, if I had to rank them, it's Rumble, Mania, SummerSlam, Survivor Series these days.
Yeah, that's
I would say about pre-90s Survivor, pre-98 Summer or Survivor Series would go far up for me.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. That makes sense to
Yeah.
me for sure. Yeah, SummerSlam's one that I've always looked forward to. My birthday's right around that time, so it's always like been a treat for me to watch it. I like the fact with I was I think it was to Kate actually I was saying today on Twitter that I like the fact that growing up when it came to the big four, you could always guarantee every title was on the line.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
tag matches, tag team titles,
Yeah.
every
The first
women's,
TLC was at a SummerSlam.
yeah, all of them. this year there's no women's match. I mean, there's no SmackDown women's match. It's only the Raw women's match, I think.
I
Uh,
think they're doing
is
or
Asuka
no.
is Asuka SmackDown or Raw?
She's SmackDown. So yeah, it's her.
Oh yeah, she's SmackDown. Okay, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
so
it's
it's the
her,
Raw
Bianca, and
Charlotte.
the Raw champion is Rhea. Does she even have a match?
Nope, no match for Rhea.
And they cut Becky and Trish also.
Yeah,
That got moved to Raw. So after all this build and months of build for this, they cut it off the pay-per-view. So
yeah.
sucks to be them.
Makes no sense. This is the first card. I'm just looking at the card right
Mm-hmm.
now, and this is the first card I can remember where, not counting this like Slim Jim Summer Battle Royal, there's no tag team
Oh jeez.
and no Raw women's match. But besides that, like it's literally all singles matches. And
Yeah. Yeah.
I think instead of running it 1 to 8 and asking for your picks, can we do least care about to most care about?
Let me see. I guess they have other. That's weird. I'm looking on CBS. They have a tag team match, and they have Rhea versus Raquel. But I wonder if maybe those all got cut.
Yeah, who was the tag match?
It was Judgment Day of Priest and Mysterio versus Owens and Sammy.
Oh, that would have been good.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta look at another site because this also has Trish and Becky still on this.
Yeah,
So
I'm on
yeah.
Wiki. I'm on Wikipedia, so they
Oh,
have
there you go. Yeah, that's
yeah,
that's the best one to go on.
yeah. So they have Cody versus Brock, which
Sure.
exactly. Like the fact that I don't know what's worse, the fact that they didn't give Cody the title against Roman
Ugh,
at Mania, or the
yeah,
fact that they've run this match with Brock 3 previous times. Like, why do we need a fourth one? Is my
yeah.
question.
I think Cody's definitely gonna. I think that Cody's definitely gonna win here. That's for sure. I can't see him not winning and then moving on to something bigger and better.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like
I think that. Oh, go ahead.
I assume the winner of this gets the winner of Seth versus Finn for the
Yeah,
world
yeah,
championship.
probably. So I think the match I'm least excited for is probably a Logan Paul versus Ricochet. Only
Hmm.
because I don't care about Logan Paul.
Yeah.
He could do some cool things, that's for sure. But I don't know who these influencers. I'm a crotchety old man. I don't know who YouTube influencers is. I don't drink Prime. Get off my lawn. Blah blah blah. I do
Yeah.
like Ricochet though, and I'm sure they'll do some really cool things that I'll see on Twitter. But yeah, that would be that one. And then the battle royal, that's fine. I
For
don't know
for
who's in it. I like a good battle royal though.
yeah, they're trying to push LA Knight, but I'm just like
Oh, they better.
the so they have him in the battle royal versus like a bunch of jobbers, as far as I know,
Yeah,
and
that's
I'm just
usually what it
like
is. And Sheamus.
Ed Sheamus, and
Yeah.
it just seems weird to me because I'm like, how is LA Knight or Sheamus not facing Theory for the US title? Like that's not even
Oh,
on the line.
they had Theory that when I was looking on CBS. Oh, Theory was gonna face Santos because Santos won that title.
Oh, right.
Yeah, he won the tournament to face him.
Yeah. I think that's probably on the Friday, I would imagine.
Yeah,
Maybe they're
maybe.
getting the finals. Uh
Yeah.
Asuka versus Charlotte versus Bianca. To me, that should be match of the night. I could really see
Yeah,
that being excellent.
I could see that, or I could see Gunther, Drew McIntyre, being match of the night because those two are just gonna kill each other.
Yeah, speaking of Haas fights,
Yeah,
there's your
yeah,
Haas fight.
yeah, and a
Yeah.
lot of these I'm looking at it now, and I don't know who I'm gonna pick. because I do the not bringing up the rear in the Wizards picks. At least against ahead of Handsome Kevin, but I gotta put some thought into my picks, and yeah, some of these like I could certainly see Drew winning this, but then again, I could see Gunther continuing on and having a record-breaking title reign. He's getting
Yeah,
close.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Ronda versus Shayna, I have no interest in.
I have no interest in Ronda. I love Shayna Baszler. I've loved her since NXT. I feel like she is somebody WWE has dropped the ball with tremendously. Like in NXT, like I was really watching a lot there every week.
Yeah, she was a
And
killer.
she was a killer. She felt different than anybody else. She, she murdered people. And now up in WWE, she's losing 3-minute matches to Natalia or stuff like that. It's like, oh, come on.
Yeah.
So, but the only reason I didn't put that as my least interested is because, Shayna is, she's my favorite woman pretty much on WWE at this point.
I almost feel like we should have like winner of that match, which as uh I was gonna say I've heard that Ronda's on her way out of the company.
Yeah,
So I'm
yeah,
assuming Shayna goes over there. That might be the
she's got
easiest
to,
of the
yeah,
picks. But I want to see her versus winner of Raquel versus Rhea.
which is probably going to be Rhea. So, yeah, I could go for,
Rhea Shayna would be unbelievable, I
yeah,
think.
I could definitely go for that.
Yeah. Roman versus Jay, long overdue, but
Yeah, yeah, this has been built to so well, and that storyline has been so good, and I don't know. I don't know if they pull the trigger on Jay here. Uh, I don't know if they continue on with Roman's record-breaking win or reign, but I have a feeling it's going to be like a like a storyline type match.
mhm.
Like not how like Seth and Finn will be like moves and work rate and all that stuff, and it'll be great. Also, like Roman, will be more of a story and stuff, or time to breathe in the middle and stuff like that, and 30 minutes and stuff. So we'll see. We'll see.
I just wonder if they have confidence in Jay because he like
Yeah,
every time it seems that the ball's going in his direction, he gets a DUI. Or
I think that's Jimmy that gets the DUIs.
oh, Jay's the fine one, I guess. Or,
I think so. Whoever's married to Trinity.
yeah, that's Jay. That's this guy Jay. Yeah,
Oh, that is Jay.
I think so. Let me double
Oh,
check. Not yeah, to Trinity. He's
oh
married to
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I guess he was. No, no. Jimmy Uso was the one that was arrested.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah. With Jimmy Uso,
Oh no,
there's three.
Jimmy's
Yeah,
married to Naomi.
yeah, yeah. Trinity, or she's
And,
Naomi is Trinity now.
yeah, and Jay is married to a Takesha Travis.
Okay. Yeah, Jimmy has 3 DUIs, which is not a good look.
Yeah,
And he
so
also
he'll
called
probably
a cop an asshole during one of them. Not a good look there.
nope. So he'll probably never get get a singles title. I
Nah,
don't
I don't
think.
see Jimmy. I don't see them having confidence in Jimmy. I assume they learned their lesson from Jeff Hardy.
Yeah, exactly.
I'd like to think they do.
Exactly. Yeah,
Hmm.
so that's the SummerSlam card this year.
Yeah, watch SummerSlam. You know what? I have a feeling it's gonna be good. Seth and Finn is gonna be good. I could see. I don't know if they would do it, but the wild card in that is if they pull the trigger with Finn, does Priest come out and try and take advantage? He's got that money in the bank.
I think that might be the thing.
That could
That's what
be,
they team
yeah,
that's what they're leading towards. So
yeah. You never know.
yeah, man.
But yeah, as even though I don't watch SummerSlam, I'll definitely give it give it a watch. There's gonna be a lot of good stuff on here. WWE, as much as I don't really watch them, they definitely come through with their pay-per-view, PLE, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
They did like their production is you can see why they're considered the best of the
Except for the
bunch.
freaking camera cuts.
Yeah.
Ugh, we don't need 7 camera cuts in 5 seconds. They need to stop that.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially if like somebody's down and like giving them the big fists like Austin used to. Thank God Steve Austin matches would have been unwatchable if they had that many camera cuts because that's all they would have done.
Yeah.
Austin would have had like 40 camera cuts in like 5 minutes of a match.
Speaking of Austin, did you
Yeah.
hear on 90s Nostalgia Hour episode 1, Bauer was talking about how in the 90s he used to think Cold Stone Creamery was Stone Cold Creamery.
Yeah, yeah, that was pretty funny.
So I'm like now every time I go by a Tim Hortons because Tim Hortons up here partnered with Cold Stone when they tried to run in Canada. So every time
Nice.
I buy Tibbs, I'm just like Stone Cold. I miss you.
That's
Uh,
awesome.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, that's pretty good, man.
Mhm.
So you said you had a random question that you wanted
Yes.
to do?
So I would throw this out at you
Okay.
because there was something that happened 20 something years ago today. Can you think of a time in wrestling? I don't know exactly how far you go back, but can you think of something in wrestling where a company just completely dropped the ball? Like they had something great and it just dropped the ball. So while you're thinking of that, I'll give you my example. So is it 30 97, however many, I can't do math. So if that's 25 years ago or whatever, I think it's close.
26
26,
years.
thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah. 26 years ago on Nitro today, Lex Luger defeated Hulk Hogan, Hollywood Hulk Hogan, for the WCW title on Nitro in the main event. At the time, Lex Luger, a lot of people don't like him, but he was over as anybody else in wrestling, except maybe Sting. But even then, like he was like super over, and like fans loved him. Anytime he did his like arm thing for the rack, the place would come unglued, and they like the way he won, like it was him versus the entire NWO. I watched the clip today. Like Hall comes to the ring, Nash, Savage, Vincent, all these guys like come to the ring, and he's throwing them into each other, getting rid of them, throwing them over the top, and he gets Hogan in the rack, and the place comes unglued. And Hogan submits, and you could literally see. I think it was Randy Anderson was the ref. Randy Anderson puts his hands on his head, like, "Oh my God, this is happening!" Calls for the bell. Place comes unglued. Like Lex Luger is God. And then Road Wild was, I want to say 5 days later. I believe it was on a Saturday. Luger loses the title right back to Hogan. The next Monday Nitro, I don't think Luger was even on it or mentioned. And they just dropped. They had something with Luger. Like, I know they were building towards Sting. Sting was 6 months away at Starcade. They could have given Luger like a 3-4 month reign and then have, Hogan screw him, get the title back. And you could have had Sting come down and been like, all right, Luger's my guy. Now I'm coming for you. But they just, I that one always bothers me as like WCW. It wasn't like the peg that started the downfall, but that's really, you could point to that part and be like, okay, this could have been where they could have done something special and they didn't. So seeing that on Twitter, that's where I feel like that sparked a conversation for me where somebody dropped the ball.
Hmm.
So yeah, my question to you was, can you remember anything like that?
That I remember that whole thing actually.
Mm-hmm.
I remember being like 9 or 10 years old when that whole thing happened. Like 97, I would have been 9.
Yeah.
But I remember like watching wrestling from the time I was like 5 or maybe 4 actually. Anyways, I was always a big Luger guy back then. I remember even as a kid, I always thought that in terms of dropping the ball and Luger, the first thing that popped in my mind was Royal Rumble 94, where
Okay.
like I felt like he was on top of the world. They were trying to push him as like the next big thing, but then
Yeah.
they had they had him save Brett, and then Brett went on and got the win against Yokozuna at Mania, and Luger
Yeah, I
became the
think
forgotten guy then too.
yeah, Royal Rumble was kind of where you could tell they lost confidence in Luger, where he co-won it with Brett, where the story probably should have been if it had kept on, like he wins it and
Wins
goes
it,
on to beat
beats Yoko.
Yokozuna,
Yep.
not by count out this time.
No, he just beats him
Yeah,
clean, and then he gets the big title reign for several months and like a
yeah,
couple good programs. That's one that comes to mind. Another one for me is I guess more recently there's two that come to mind. One is Rusev Day. Like the amount of
yes,
hype that they had with Rusev, he should have
yes.
been world champion in my opinion. But they
I was uh, I was at Royal Rumble. I want to say that would have been was that 18? Wherever it was in Philly. It was right in the middle of Rusev Day, and fans were chanting for him every number basically until he came out, and they went insane for him. And it carried over to the women's rumble because when came out, she got like one of the loudest reactions, just because she's married to Rusev and everybody knows it.
Mhm.
So yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah,
They dropped the ball with that one.
yeah, plus his partnership with Aiden English, they didn't need to pull the trigger on a heel turn or anything. Like they could have
No,
just been together. They even came close once, I think once or twice against the Usos, I want to say. It was either
probably.
Usos or New Day for the
Yeah,
tag
it was.
titles.
It's always either Russo's or New Day.
Usos or New Day. That's the problem. They keep going back to those two teams for the tag team championships.
Hmm.
Another guy that I think about is Bray Wyatt. When he first started up, I always found like there was a time I think I want to say between like 2011 and 2016 where random guys would just suddenly get like the crowd on their side and
Yeah,
they get put into a program with Cena and Cena would never job to them. And they were like, "Oh, Cena's improved. He puts this guy over."
yeah.
Okay, but if you're not giving the guy a win against Cena, he's not putting you over. I don't care how good of a match he's working with you, he's not putting you over. Um,
Mm.
he would give, I mean, him and AJ was always a good program too,
Yes. Yeah, it was. I
but
feel like Bray Wyatt, like when they finally did give him the ball, like he had that horrible match with Randy Orton at WrestleMania,
oh
where they
yeah,
had the
completely
bugs
killed.
in the ring and everything. That was garbage. They had they had like whatever that compound fight thing was.
Yeah.
I don't remember, but yeah, that just like it felt like it could have been something, but then oof. Same
Well,
thing with the Fiend. It's like the Fiend versus Seth just murdered him.
yeah. Well, I mean, Bray, for instance, I mean, right before that Randy Orton feud, he literally um, pins AJ and then Cena, or no, maybe it was Cena then AJ back to back in the Elimination
Yeah,
Chamber.
yeah,
Gets that big win, cuts this amazing promo on SmackDown right after Elimination Chamber, where he's like, now I can tell you fans that I literally have the whole world in my hands, and he's like, and you're thinking, okay, a star is born here.
yep, he's
Next,
got it.
he's gonna get the ball for the next year and a half. Next thing you know, Randy Orton had won the Royal Rumble at the time, and he was part of the Wyatts. And they're just like, nope, you're gonna job out to Randy at this random Firefly Funhouse match in at WrestleMania, and that's gonna be the thing. I was like, what the hell?
Yeah,
Same with another one for me is probably Daniel Bryan losing in 18 seconds to Sheamus. I mean,
yeah,
kind
but
of.
that to me, as shitty that was, and as crazy as that was like the first step on what really brought him to the top.
Hmm.
Like, granted, he lost in 18 seconds, and that got so many people so mad and so behind him. Like, if he didn't do that, I don't think there's a world title win in his future.
Yeah, I would.
Yeah,
I could see that too.
I
I
feel
mean,
like he turned chicken shit into chicken salad
yeah,
on that one.
yeah,
So yeah, that while that was disappointing, and I was watching that live and was quite mad. At least they did eventually capitalize on it, and he definitely well, they sort of capitalized on it. He made them capitalize on it.
yeah.
So
Uh, Another one I could think of
mhm.
is I can't remember the date. I think it was 2000 ECW where Dreamer finally wins the world title, and then
Yes.
he gets so mad at Just Incredible, and he ends up losing it in the same night.
Oh yeah,
I was like,
that's a Tommy Dreamer thing to do.
yeah, yeah, it totally was, but at the same time, you're just like, he finally got there. He finally
Yeah.
did it. And then they're like, nope, taking the title away from you.
Yeah.
And if memory serves, I don't think he like got a rematch for that. Like I think it like just went to
I think
Credible.
it went to Credible, and then he might have gotten a rematch. I know he feuded with him. Credible was like that guy he'd never really stopped feuding with. He feuded with him for a long time, and so that kind of kept it going. I'm pretty sure Francine joined up. Was that even when Francine turned on him?
Francine turned on Dreamer, and
Yes.
that's why Credible won the title
Yeah. Yeah.
at the
So
time. But
yeah, I'm sure. I think like him and I think he might have even had a rematch with them at one point, but they always were like, if they see each other, they'll start fighting.
yeah, same as Dreamer and Raven. It
Yeah,
was
Dreamer and Raven, Dreamer and the Dudleys, guys that just like never stop feuding.
I loved probably the greatest moment, and it's been played all over YouTube forever, is when the Dudleys want to take the ECW tag titles to WWE with them. And
Yes.
Dreamer challenges them, and then Raven comes out, helps him win the titles, but it's not, he doesn't win them with him because he's doing the right thing. It's because he just wants to be forever entangled with Dreamer.
Yeah, yeah.
Like just the
That was
manipulation.
if you talk to Raven, that was the loudest pop ever in ECW history. If you talk to Sandman, his return a month or so later was the loudest. But
Yeah.
yeah, that was a cool moment.
Yeah.
Yep.
The greatest meme, we share a lot of memes off air for our listeners, but the greatest meme you've sent me was Happy Father's Day, and it's Raven with Sandman's kids.
Yeah, with
Sandman's
Tyler.
son and wife.
Yeah, yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for our non wrestling listeners who are listening to the podcast, firstly, thank you so much. Secondly, the background on that story is Raven had basically given Sandman's son Stockholm syndrome to think that like Sandman was a bad guy and that Raven
Yeah.
was the right guy in the storyline. And
Raven
so
had yeah, he had his wife, Sandman's wife first, and they kind of like convinced them together.
yeah, yeah,
Peaches.
that whole storyline was
Oh, jeez.
unbelievable.
Yeah, they screwed him too. I remember at one point they made it seem like Tyler was back with Sandman. He like comes out and he hugs him and everybody's happy, and then he takes a step back, and then here comes Raven from behind and frames him with his cane, and then Tyler does the Raven pose, and I could just hear Joey Styles now screaming about it. That bastard, blah blah blah. But
Fantastic.
yeah, yeah, it's good times.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, I
great.
could. If we had the time, I would talk about that all night. But
For sure.
gotta
Another
save something for other shows, right?
exactly another episode. So before we get out of here,
Hmm.
tell the fine people where we can get to see you, man.
Okay, so you can check me out on Twitter. I don't share a ton of things, but at Irish Misfit. Um, I do a question of dishonor for our friends High Five Tom and Will for their podcast, ROH Revelry, which is part of Visionary Global's Medias and Shining Wizards Network. So you could listen to that every once in a while. I pop on there if I have a really good question that I just can't send a text to. I'll tell them, hey, I want to pop on and do this. So once in a blue moon, you'll see me on there. Listen every week to the Shining Wizards at follow them on Twitter at Shining Wizards or at the Shining Wizards. It's one of the two. Just type in Shining Wizards, you'll find them, and I'm gonna get ripped if I can't remember it. But I do notes for them every week. It's such an awesome show. It's how we met. It's how I met Tom and Will. How I met so many other people. How I brought SJ into the mix. So they always get the big thumbs up in my favorite podcast because of one, how hilarious and great the podcast is, and two, how they brought their Discord brings everybody together. Join the Discord also. It's a good time on there as well. Tons of stuff to do and talk about.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I highly recommend that Discord as well. As Brundan just mentioned, we met via the Discord and probably also the chat, the live chat for Wizards podcast every Monday. Mark Order's another place that is good stuff as well.
Yeah.
But we just mentioned that we could talk wrestling for 7 hours, and but we have to save things for other episodes. At the Mark Order, 7 hours is probably like a short podcast, but
it's 7 hours learning about their days.
Learning about their days.
It's always entertaining, and I'll always listen to it. That's for sure. They do a great job.
They do a great job. The thing though is, and I've said this before, is that because I'm watching like AEW right before, I end up just sticking around for that hour or sometimes two of the first 3 hours just to listen to how their days went and how everything's going. And then as soon as they get into AEW talk, I'm just like, all right, I'll see you next week.
There were times I love listening to them when I don't watch AEW because there are weeks where I'm busy or something like that, or I don't get home till 9 o'clock. Thank you, work. But that's when I watch them.
Yeah, they're great. For me, you can catch me on Twitter at @E_Freeds. I'm usually spewing off nonsense about wrestling, random thoughts under the hashtag clarity chat, contexts for random things. Like today, for instance, I said, does anyone besides myself think about things in wrestling terms? Or is that just me? I guess I'll ask you that question before we go, Brundan. Do you ever think about things in wrestling terms, or?
Yeah. I talk. I've been watching so many years. I've definitely talked in wrestling terms before. I've said things like gimmick to my wife or stuff like that, or wrestling terms to other people, and I usually get a big like, "What the hell are you talking about?"
Yeah.
My life is. I watch wrestling. I listen to people talk about it all week long. I fall asleep to listening to people talk about it. So no big surprise. I do that.
Yeah, I was. You could catch me also on 90s Nostalgia Pod with Brundan. I mean, not Brundan, with Bauerhausen and SJ. Soon, Brundan will join us on one of those podcasts, and it'll be great. Our upcoming episode, 90s boy bands, should be a lot of fun. SJ,
SJ, that is a show for SJ.
SJ,
I've known her 20 years, and that is, she'll be careful. She's going to talk for hours, and she could, about all that stuff, and it will be entertaining.
We told her, we said SJ, this is 90s nostalgia hour, not 90s nostalgia week. So she was like, okay, I'll try and keep it to an hour. So we're actually going to have a quiz that I've kind of been studying for Bauerhausen and I's knowledge of 90s boy bands. It's going to be a lot of fun. I look
forward to failing that.
I'm going to fail that too. Absolutely. I actually thought that George Michael was in New Kids on the Block. And,
jeez.
And SJ was like, nope. So you could catch me on E_Freeds on Twitter, 90s at 90s Nostalgia Pod on Twitter, 90s Nostalgia Hour on Instagram, 90s Nostalgia Hour podcast on Facebook. That's all run by SJ and Bauerhausen. I take care of the audio. Sorry, a little spoiler there. You can also catch me on Nattering with E, the Instagram page. If you would love to get on an episode with me, totally come join the party. Me and Brundan would be happy to have you with us here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Jordan and I are pulling for our man Rob Van Dam to answer our call and get on an episode with us. Also, Josh Alexander, if you are watching this now that you're back in Impact, you've ducked me for like 3 separate shows, 2 in Greektown and 1 on Impact. Rebellion. You said, Rebellion. You said that you were injured, but let's be honest here. You just knew that I was going to be at those shows and you decided not to show up. So if you're listening to this, Josh Alexander, firstly, thank you for listening. Secondly, please come on the podcast and explain yourself. And thirdly, please don't hit me with whatever the walking weapon finishing maneuver may be.
I don't remember.
I don't remember.
Watch out for his wife too, because she's a tough cookie.
She's crazy. She takes monster bumps still. She's like quote unquote retired, but Jade Chung takes crazy bumps.
I wouldn't mess with her.
No, me either. And that's it.
Thank you everybody for looking. Spade and neuter your pets. Be kind to people. Be nice. Don't be a dick. And thank you for listening to our dribble for the last hour and change.
Yes, thank you so much. This has been a Nattering with E production. We still don't have a name for our segments. Just Eric and Brundan shooting the breeze. We'll come up with something. But this has been Nattering with E. Check us out on Spotify and Podbean, and I think eventually YouTube. Apple Podcasts, for some reason, I should say here, does not want us on. I have no idea. They never told us why, but they're lost. So, we'll see you soon. Have a good one, everybody.